The Verdict with World Pool.
Hello everybody, welcome to this week's edition of The Verdict, which will major on the Betfred Derby Festival last Friday and Saturday. But we will also go to Musselburgh for one race and to Navan to look at a decent two-year-old who made his debut there on Saturday as well. But we start with Oaks Day at Epsom. Let's have a look at the winners on what was day one of the festival. Formal taking the first. 124.02 over 7 furlongs. Maximise winning the Woodcut. Jan Brueghel, we'll have a look at him in a minute. A tremendous time. 236.13, just 0.53 outside the Racing Post standard. Victories was very impressive in the 3:15. Another that we'll look at. And of course, we'll take in the Oaks as well. Minnie Hauk, 238.91 over a mile and a half. Compare that to Jan Brueghel, 236.13. Mursky and Partisan Hero were the other couple of winners on the card. What do the Race IQ Time Index say about what happened at Epsom on Friday? I think the ground was just about right to start with. Good to soft, good in places. I think it started to dry out just a little bit as we went through the card. Look at that 8.2 achieved by Jan Brueghel. Victories in the fourth contest over a mile and a quarter got a 7, and Minnie Hauk just 5.9. The meeting average 6.3, so all those three races above the average for the grade of race on the ground as described over the trips that they were running over. So let's concentrate on the Coronation Cup first of all. Jan Brueghel, who featured on the Verdict when he won his maiden at the Curragh on his debut. He came from stall 3, stall 6 was Calandagan, and then we had Giavolotto from stall number 5. The start's very important. See there's a little bit of a problem for Calandagan, who's slowly away, 3.49 seconds to get to 20 miles an hour. 7th, he also got hampered by Giavolotto. The winner, much quicker out of the stalls, 3.09 seconds to 20 miles an hour, 0.4 of a second quicker than Calandagan. But look at him here, Calandagan, in last. He was slowly away. Yes, he just got a bump, but he's just taken a while to warm to his task. He's just virtually off the bridle here. He's just taking a while to get into his stride and to get going. And then he comes good and comes onto the bridle. But it's taken him a furlong and a half or so to find his rhythm and get into the racing groove. And that may have cost him because he's only narrowly beaten in the end. But he's been beaten by a very good horse in the shape of Jan Brueghel. Jan Brueghel's final time here of 236.13 is 2.6 seconds under the Race IQ par to produce the best time index of the day, and this is the best time performance over the 2 days at Epsom. He sat in 3rd place. They had a plan, Ballydoyle. They wanted to turn it into a test of stamina. They wanted Calandagan to get into a fight. The reason they wanted that is that Calandagan has shown himself to have a very sharp turn of foot in the Shima Classic and in the Jubilant International. He has quickened up really well. He's a very fast horse, Calandagan, and they wanted to suck that speed out of him. And to a degree, they did here. In a race that was run at an honest tempo, courtesy of Continuous, who went fast through the first 3 furlongs, and then he did a 12.87 and 13.36 through the 4th and 5th furlongs, really keeping the taps on, keeping the accelerator down, all the way down the hill, Continuous. Here comes Ancient Wisdom. He fires a fast furlong here as they turn into the home straight, and Jan Brueghel is now going to pick up under Ryan Moore and run on really strongly in the closing stages. Furlong 10, 11.19 seconds from Jan Brueghel. That's par as against the Race IQ pars, but yet he's still coming home strongly. 11.51 in the 11th furlong. And overall, therefore, his final 3 furlongs of 34.77 were good enough to give him an FSP of 111.4, a typical FSP for a mile and a half at Epsom. Calandagan gets there, but he can't go past. He's just outstayed the final furlong. Jan Brueghel 12.08, Calandagan 12.1. But in the preceding 5 furlongs, Calandagan had been quicker than Jan Brueghel. but he'd been a bit too far back, courtesy of that slow start. It was suggested perhaps that he didn't want to go by, that maybe he needs headgear and that kind of thing. I don't think so. I think this is a tremendous race. They pulled well clear of Giavolotto. They are both top class mile-and-a-half horses. Here's the Race IQ data in its entirety. The start important. 20 miles an hour, Jan Brueghel, 4th quickest, 7th quickest, Calandigan, that 3.49, very slowly into stride. Not much between them in terms of the rest of the data. Calandigan reached a top speed of 40.59. Jan Brueghel couldn't run that fast, 40.32, and Calandigan ran a slightly quicker furlong than Jan Brueghel managed, 11.18 versus 11.19. Calandigan, I think he's still all there. Maybe he wants to strongly run 10 furlongs. I think he wants Ascot for sure, and he'd be a big player in the King George. But Jan Brueghel is world class in my opinion. This was a brilliant performance from him on his seasonal reappearance. He's only had 6 runs in his career. There's going to be more to come. Ballydoyle say that Los Angeles is their number one. I'd like to see Los Angeles take on this fella because I don't think he could beat it. We have seen the best time performance of the Betfred Derby Festival already, courtesy of Jan Brueghel. Let's have a look at the best handicap performance now. And it came from Ecroy Secret in the Nifty 50 handicap on Friday afternoon. Let's see why this was such a good performance. Ecroy Secret came from stall 11 and beat a catcher from stall number 6. And third home from stall 1 was Westerton. Ecroy Secret puts up what is a pattern race performance in a handicap here. Quite reasonably well from the stalls, 2.53 seconds to get to 20 miles an hour, the 6th fastest, but taken forward as Mutawid decides to take them along in the early part of the race. Horse who'd won at Newmarket, making all of the running on his previous start. What's the pace of this race like? It's certainly strong for the first couple of furlongs. Ecroy Secret, 12.97 seconds, rated as fast against the Race IQ par through the second furlong of the race. They weren't hanging about. The first 2 furlongs really strong as horses tried to establish a position. Keep an eye on the grey horse, a catcher, real eye catcher, and certainly lit the data up as well. And will be a horse who will be winning a handicap in the near future. Doesn't get the best of passages through, but runs on really strongly. But look at Ecroy Secret travelling all over Mutawid at this stage in second place under Oceanor for Richard Fahey. They went even, those first 2 furlongs quick, then they went even, 13.45, 13.22, 12.81, starting to wind it up at the 6th furlong, 11.91, and then the 7th furlong, 11.59, and then an 11.05 from the winner. Quickens up pretty well with 3 furlongs to go. From the 4 to the 3 is where Ecroy Secret really asserts and shows a decent turn of foot to get to the front. And because of that, was able to come home pretty strongly, really, recording a final 3 furlongs of 34.45. Look at a catcher. Wanted to just highlight the position that this horse comes from. He gets hampered. He'd been hampered at the top of the hill as well. And he comes home strongly, 34.5 his final 3 furlongs, and that's a pretty good effort from a catcher having been stuck in traffic. Ecroy Secret rated as fast in the second furlong, 12.97 seconds, and here he's clear and he's running on really strongly for an FSP of 109.96 and the par's 112.91 there. High par FSPs at Epsom. Horses tend to save energy early on and then finish strongly, and that's what Ecroy Secret did. But look, he's down in the closing stages, this horse. He's made a mockery of this handicap. He must be a pattern race performer. All of his forms come with a bit of cut in the ground. I think he's just getting his toe in here, rated as good to soft, I think. And he'll be a force to reckon with, possibly a listed race next time up. But I quite like the way that a catcher picked up. And a catcher, the grey horse, the only horse in the race to do a sub-11 second furlong. The third last furlong to go from 5th to 2nd when he got out, 10.87 from a catcher. That's really good. If you look at that second line down, you can see that 10.87. Look at the mile column, 10.87 from him when he got into the clear and was able to run on quite strongly. But the winner, eased down, was still the fastest in the final furlong with a 12.12. And he was able to quicken 2 with an 11.05 at that mile point also. Ecroy Secret, definitely a pattern race performer going forward. A catch-up, one for a handicap next time out. OK, let's have a look at the big one on Friday, which was the Betfred Oaks. And it was a very interesting contest with the 1,000 Guineas winner, Desert Flower, in there, and pretty well supported as well. Let's take it from the start and have a look and see how this race unfolded. Fairly even jump from them all, and the winner was quite handy. Whirl, who's second, pretty handy as well. And the third, Desert Flower, who underperformed, I think, was fairly handy too. Giselle was the one who was slightly slowly away in the early part of the race. Took a while to get up to speed, 2.77 seconds to get to 20 miles an hour, the slowest to do so in the race. The gallop was very strong here, courtesy of Whirl. Second furlong, rated as fast as against the race IQ par, 13.49. Remember, going sharply uphill at this stage. They were not hanging about at all in this race, and Ryan Moore was happy to sit pretty handy on Minnie Hauk, and in truth not a lot changes throughout this race, bar the fact that Minnie Hauk is able to get past Whirl, who does 2 fast furlongs early on and then just races through par sectionals thereafter. The 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th were all rated as par, so there was no hanging about whatsoever. Desert Flower suggested that she was off the bridle quite a long way out. She's going OK at this stage. She's got a good posse down on the inside. She had seen a lot of daylight up the hill and was perhaps a tad keen. Not too bad, though. I just think she's underperformed. Maybe it was the ground at this trip. Maybe it was the track. Who knows? But I don't think this was the best of Desert Flower at all. Whirl's still rolling along. Listen to these even fractions. After those first 2, she went 13.59, 13.37, 13.87, 13.59, 13.37. There's no filling up, taking a pull, easing off the gas, keeping the revs up out in front. And that's just ideal for Minnie Hauk, who had won at Chester and was Ryan Moore's choice in the race. That surprised some. Some thought that he'd be on Whirl because she'd won the Musidora in the fashion of a really strong stayer. And she shapes like a strong stayer here as well. They picked up the pace about 5 out. As soon as they turned in, Wayne Lorden was keen to get going on Whirl. He really wanted to turn it into a stamina test. Not much has changed, has it? Whirl's still in front, Minnie Hauk still second, Desert Flower is still third, just down towards the rail. But she's under pretty strong pressure from William Buick, and we've still got 3 to go. Ryan Moore picking up now on Minnie Hauk, 11.2 seconds. She ran from the 3 to the 2. That's rated as par. She then ran at 11.88, which took her past Whirl, and she was 0.04 of a second faster than Whirl through the final furlong. Whirl did not lie down. She battled on really well. There's Minnie Hauk's finishing speed percentage, 109.79. The par, 112.37. I've said quite a lot. We get fast finishes at Epsom. Horses saving energy up the hill and then just sitting tight coming down the hill and then sprinting off the bend. That's why you get fast finishes, and we certainly did here with Minnie Hauk coming home well above 100%. What about those in behind? Well, we said Desert Flower's disappointed. Revoir briefly threatened. Giselle looked awkward on the track. She looked a bit awkward when she'd won at Lingfield as well, when she'd taken that 3-runner Oaks trial. She didn't run too badly. She just ran on a little bit in the closing stages. But this was quite a severe test of stamina, courtesy of Whirl. 2 fast furlongs and then running evenly thereafter, and there was no real let up, but nonetheless Minnie Hauk was able to pick up, and that 11.2 second third last furlong taking her to the front, and that was the fastest furlong in the race, as you can see from those columns. 39.67 miles an hour. She was the fastest in the race. Minnie Hauk. Whirl could only manage 38.75 miles an hour. She doesn't possess a lot of speed, Whirl, but she does have a lot of stamina. Minnie Hauk coming back in, having landed the Betfred Oaks. Ryan Moore suggesting afterwards that there could be more to come. After all, she is lightly raced, and this was a tremendous performance from her, a big improvement on what she'd achieved at Chester, and she's sure to go on to better things after this. In this segment of the show, we are going to be looking at the Betfred Derby, amongst other things, and that race is the Whirlpool Race of the Week. Here are the times from Epsom on Saturday. I think the point to make about these times overall is that they were perhaps slower than you would imagine. I think the ground was a little bit softer than described. It certainly got pretty soft towards the end of the day when the rain came pouring down. You can see there Warhawk, very slow time, Sondad pretty slow as well. Likewise, Small Fry, and better times earlier on in the card. But even so, they were slower than perhaps you would have imagined, because the Race IQ Time Index gives them very low scores. Now, these scores are courtesy of the going description, the trips these races are run over, the class of race as well, and the going was described as good to soft in places. Now, bear in mind, we've got good horses running. It's a decent card, obviously, and we've got really low scores. I think, therefore, we have to infer that the ground was a bit softer than good to soft in places. There's the Derby itself, 3.5 the score. You can see that the scores early on in the card were better than those later on, the rain coming down for the last 3 races. Nonetheless, the Derby time was better than the Oaks. Here we go then, the big race. The winner was Lambourn from 10, Lazy Griff from 3, and Tennessee Stud out in 12 was back in 3rd spot. 19 runners. And the Race IQ draw bias tells us that stall 10, where Lambourn, the winner, came from, had a disadvantage of 0.39 length. So mark him up just a little bit for overcoming that particular disadvantage. His break speed wasn't great. He was slowly into stride, really. 2.78 seconds to get to 20 miles an hour. 8th fastest in the race. And that's why Wayne Lauder was, well, pretty animated on him in the early part of the contest to go forward and to run fast furlongs. Look at his second furlong, 13.07. His first furlong was rated as very fast as well, and his third furlong of 13.5 rated as fast. He's gone hard up the hill, this horse, slowly out of the stalls, and then really pushed along by Lord. And look at him there, he's animated. He's not messing around on him. He wants to get him to the front. He clearly thinks he's a strong stayer, and he's happy to use up energy in the early part of the race, perhaps knowing that he's on a very strong stayer. Now, some of the vanquished in behind have not run particularly well. Delacroix gets hampered towards the rear early on, and thereafter he never ever gets involved. Demisius, he was too keen up the hill. Apparently he kicked out in the stalls and suffered cuts to his hock. That may be a bit of an excuse. Pride of Arras didn't perform. The race fell apart a little bit because a number of horses didn't give their running. The first 6 in the Dante ran here, and they didn't get into the first 10 here in the Derby, not one of them. That's an interesting take on what happened there. But look at Lambourn rolling along, those 3 fast furlongs to start with, and then steady just a little bit coming down the hill. The 4th furlong was 13.6, and then a 14.3 and a 13.7 from Wayne Lorden. Good stuff from him, really. Just saving a little bit of energy and then kicking on again. 9th furlong, 12.05. Rated as slow as against the Race IQ par, but nothing's closing on him, really. Some in behind were running just a little bit quicker at this stage, going in pursuit of him, but they just couldn't get to him. He does an 11.96 after that 10th furlong, and he finishes off with a 12.79. Now, these are rated as very slow as against the Race IQ par, because we expect faster finishes at Epsom than we got here. But he's galloped them into submission here and run on really strongly. Horses to note, for sure, is Tennessee Stud down against the rail. He's running on in really good style in the closing stages. Look at him coming home against the rail. And new ground out wide. He was, quite impressive in the way he finished, because he'd been very keen in the early part of the race, but yet he comes home well. His final furlong, new ground, widest of all, pink cap, the fastest in the race. 12.54, and he's all at sea on the camber as well. He's all over the place, and he pulled going up the hill as well from the stalls. He's a very talented racehorse, new ground. You can mark him up big style, I think. Likewise, Tennessee Stud, who came from a long way back. But Lambourn, in the style of a very strong stayer, has just kept rolling out in front. Finishing speed percentage 107.51, whereas the runner-up was 109.06, and the next 2 were over 111. But he had enough of an advantage, and he just kept rolling out in front, even if some horses behind him ran faster final furlongs. 11.96 was his fastest furlong. If you just go down that column, fastest furlong, the second ran a faster furlong, 11.57. So did the third, 11.41. So did the fourth, 11.49. Stanhope Gardens did likewise, 11.41. So you're getting the picture that he's been able to establish a lead and then hang on. Other horses able to show more speed than him, but he's all about stamina. And he was brilliantly ridden by Wayne Lorden to take advantage of that fact. If I'm going to take one horse out of this, I'm going to take New Ground out. He could be a really serious horse this autumn, perhaps on a more conventional track. He needs to settle down in the early part of his race as well. But here he is, Lambourn. They've done it again. Aidan O'Brien, 11 times in this winner's circle after the Epsom Derby. And he'll head to the Curragh now for the Irish equivalent. And it's often won that race by a really strong stayer. And front runners are favoured there too. So it all looks tailor-made for Lambourn to double up at the Curragh. Now, whilst Aidan O'Brien was farming the Group 1 contests at the Betfred Derby Festival, he launched an exciting two-year-old onto the scene at Navan on Saturday afternoon by the name of Warsaw. Let's have a look at the times for the card. On the day, there he is in the opening contest. Win time of 1 minute 1.14, standard being 59.9, 1.24 therefore outside that. And Fair Taxis the second. And we go right down to Arkland, who took the last. The last 3 times were very slow indeed. But this is an exciting two-year-old, I think, Warsaw. For the Race IQ Time Index identifies that he put up the best time performance of the day. This two-year-old over 5 furlongs, meeting average 7.9. But on debut, he's fired an 8.9. And there were some good times on the card. What I would say is that the ground at Navan was probably a bit quicker than the yielding good in places description. I'm going to go good based on those Race IQ Time Index performances there. So good ground and a good horse. Warsaw, son of Wootton Bassett out of a Galileo mare on debut. Kansas was the odds-on favourite from the yard who finished third. Warsaw 12, Fairy Oak 2, Kansas 8. Was back in third, odds on but beaten. Warsaw pretty quickly out of the stalls. He was only 5th quickest, not too bad for a debutant, 2.71 seconds. Look at the size of him there. He's a big beast and he travels really strongly through a fast run race. They've gone hard here. Look at the finishing speed percentage, 99.8. Par, you'd expect something about 102.73. They've gone very hard, finished a bit tired. But here are his splits. He's gone 12.51, 11.12, 11.01, that third furlong highlighted there, 11.01 and 11.42. So if you rate all of his sectionals against the Race IQ pars, he's gone fast, fast, par, par, to come home in 24.51. To land this in really good style. And he's green, look, he runs around, his head's in the air, but eventually, when he's really asked to go and stretch, away he goes. Fairy Oaks running on late. Kansas, who had more experience than him and went off odds on, is back in third spot. And he's just kept rolling all the way to the line to give him that really good time index of 8.9 as against the meeting average of 7.9. He was totally unfancied. He went off 18-1 here, so he's obviously shown something that he hasn't at home. And what he has shown, what the data tells us, is that he's a fast horse. He's a really quick horse. He was fast as against par through the first and second furlongs. And he went 11.12, 11.01, 11.42 for a debutant. That's a really good effort from him. A little bit slow in the final furlong, but you can see there, a strongly run race courtesy of those FSPs. He's getting tired late on, but he'd rolled along in the early stages of the race. He was green when he was asked to make his effort, but make his effort he did, and I think he's very useful. I wanted to acknowledge a really good card at Musselburgh on Saturday, and I can do so by having a look at the listed race on the card. Here are the winners on the day. Times are pretty good. The game was described as good. The race we're going to have a look at is Jabara, who took the 3:10 contest for the Roger Varian team. Sylvester de Souza up there to ride her, and she was 1:26.54 her win time. It wasn't the best time on the card, but the way she achieved that time makes for good reading as far as the data is concerned. Let's have a look at the Race IQ Time Index, and you'll see from this that it wasn't the best time on the card by a long stretch. 5.1 was what she achieved in what was a steadily run race. That's why they went steady early on, and we'll get into that in a minute. Meeting average was 6.6. I think they were right to describe the going as good. OK, so this is the Edinburgh Gin Queen of Scots British EBF Fillies listed stakes, and Jabara came from 2, Arola was second from 4, and Fiery Lucy, which put up some useful performances in Ireland, was third from stall number 6. Now, it's always good to be drawn low over this trip of 7 furlongs at Musselburgh, and Jabara has conferred a 0.13 length advantage according to the race IQ metrics that look at draw bias. And indeed, those drawn 1, 2, 3 and 4 all had a positive draw advantage, and those drawn 5 through to 10 had a negative against their name as far as their draws were concerned. Jabara a bit keen early on because they're going steady. They did not go a strong gallop whatsoever. It was taken along by Stop the Cavalry out in front at this stage. That one keen out in front. And the early fractions from Stop the Cavalry, 14.63, 12.22 and 12.23. Those are slow fractions against the Race IQ par for a 7 furlong race at Musselburgh. They normally wing round here, but they were going steady. But Jabara's in a good place to attack off those steady fractions, sat in second place, and it is her turn of foot that marks her out as being superior to her rivals here. 10.84, a very fast 5th furlong from her. She quickens up really well. That contributes to a final 2 furlongs of 22.85. There's the 6th furlong for you, 10.99, rated as fast. So he really has quickened up in good style to give her a finishing speed percentage of 107.85, the par 101.66. That courtesy of saving energy early on, yes, but wow, what a good turn of foot she's got. 2 sub-11 second furlongs to hold on from Arola and Fiery Lucy, who've both run really well in behind. They weren't too far off the pace, but Jabara in the good spot, really, the way the race was run. Quickened up well, went past Stop the Cavalry and ran on really strongly through the final couple of furlongs. 22.85 final splits, and that's pretty quick. She's got a blinding turn of foot. Remember, this is a sharp 7 furlongs. She's a very fast horse, and that man, Sylvester de Sousa, made the trip to Musselburgh very worthwhile indeed. There's going to be more to come from Jabara, notably the Oak Tree Stakes. The Oak Tree at Goodwood is all hers. She won it last year and was disqualified for wandering into the runner-up. Oh, so unlucky. Back for revenge this year. Now, if you want to get more of the Race IQ metrics, then the website's the place to go. You want to go to the results section. There's all sorts of metrics, courtesy of Race IQ, for you to be able to read. This is just an example. I've taken the Jabara race, that listed fillies event. You can see her 0 to 20 miles an hour speed. She was quickest, 2.37 seconds to get into stride. You can look at stride length, only 8th. Biggest stride, 6.97 metres. Finishing speed percentage, 107.85. You look at her top speed, and there's all sorts of other things there for you, courtesy of the Race IQ metrics. So just go to the results section of any race and have a look at those Race IQ metrics. racingtv.com/Race IQ, the place to go. We saw one brilliant time performance at Epsom. It came from Jan Brueghel, who I think is world class. And for those that want to knock Calandigan, I'm not having that. He was just beaten by a very good horse, and Calandigan will have his day. He'll get his Group 1, make no mistake about it. One horse to keep an eye on for handicaps, a Catcher, who ran really well when hampered behind a Croy's Secret. Would never have beaten that horse, who's probably a listed horse going forward. And a 2-year-old for your notebooks is Warsaw, who did it really well at Navan on Saturday afternoon. That's it for this week. I'll see you next time.
The verdict with World Pool.